Greetings and welcome again to On the Brink Radio. We're extraordinarily lucky to be with Elana Freeland today, and she's coming at us from somewhere in California, and I'm in Darwin, Northern Territory, and Elana is what I consider to be a very leading edge sort of scientific investigative researcher and author who is piecing together a big picture of the stuff that is really going on behind the scenes of the world that we're led to believe matters. And it's kind of a beyond science fiction scenario of technological advances and capabilities that the majority of people, if you tell them about it, they don't think it's possible, except like in a science fiction movie. And what means so much to me is that you are working with Dr. Claudia von Werloff, and you're going to have a chapter in her book that's several women writing about leading edge issues having to do with what mankind, not womankind, but mankind is doing to Mother Earth. And Rosalie Bertell, and look, let me shut up for a second and ask you first, did you ever get to meet Rosalie Bertell, or how long have you known about her?
No, I unfortunately never met Rosalie Bertell, a beautiful soul I would love to have met. And she, I think Claudia is the one who introduced me to Rosalie, or I was doing research for the very first book I wrote on geoengineering, which was in 2014, entitled Chemtrails, HAARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. I'm pretty sure that was when I came across her seeing planet Earth as the latest weapon of war. And of course, that's what I say. The title of the book I'm finishing now, which is the third and hopefully last book on geoengineering, is very much, I think Rosalie would approve, geoengineered transhumanism, how the environment has been weaponized by chemicals, electromagnetics, and nanotechnology for synthetic biology. So, I've been on sort of the same trail as Rosalie. She is an epidemiologist, me as a writer-researcher, and someone who, for some reason, really has a mission about making this geoengineering piece clear, because it is obviously hidden from mainstream media. You know how controlled the mainstream media is. I call it the corporate mockingbird mainstream media. They cover over the geoengineering, and then there is the story that the geoengineering is very limited and has to do with solar radiation management to counter global warming, carbons, etc., all of which is a cover story. The geoengineering is so extensive that it's hard for people to believe that it's all going on right in front of us,
yes,
in our environment.
Exactly.
And this book, where I go into synthetic biology, I'm actually back sort of on more familiar territory, because I had my second major in undergrad was biology, and I think I was 2 hours short of getting a Bachelor of Science, but I really, in a way, other than the familiarity that I still have with biological issues, the biology now is so different from the biology I studied. And basically what it is it's moving from molecular biology to digital biology. And that digital part has everything to do with the atmosphere that is created by chemical trails from jets, rockets, drones, and it goes into what I wrote in the second book, which was Under an Ionized Sky, from chemtrails to space fence lockdown, where I show Lockheed Martin's conception, which of course they don't admit, of the space fence lockdown, which goes all the way from the upper atmosphere down to the infrastructure down here in HARP, High Frequency Active Aurora Research Project type places, ionospheric heaters, small, large, and radar installations, Gwen towers, cell phones. This idea of turning the entire Earth into a machine that has been weaponized is really true, and Rosalie was the one who first saw the antecedents of the direction they were going in. And this is they, who's they? Well, I sort of call it the military-industrial intelligence complex in the previous two books, but in this one I suppose I should call it, I'm almost done with it, and I don't think I've used this term, but it is this, the military-industrial intelligence medical complex. And now we're all getting to experience this COVID-19 lockdown drama, etc., psyop. And I really am amazed that this would occur while I'm writing this book. I mean, it couldn't have been more perfect.
Yes, that is so cool.
For me to be able to go on the internet and hear all these doctors waking up and doing their research into this so-called virus, the coronavirus, and coming up with all the things it's just been fantastic, which is why, of course, I'm off schedule for when I had planned to have the book out.
Yes.
It'll be out in April.
Yes. Rosalie and I got in touch in 2009 because I forget exactly how I learned about her work, but she sent me an autographed copy of Planet Earth Latest Weapon of War. She actually sent me two because I had sent her a hand-painted rock with a little sea turtle, and she loved the whales and dolphins. And so the last email, we corresponded for a while, and her last email to me was asking my permission for her to reproduce part of an article I wrote about the whales and dolphins. Rosalie, she seemed like such a beautiful spirit, but I was surprised when Claudia said that she had only got to meet her just that one time. But with somebody like that, that's really all that needs to happen for this kind of super electromagnetic connection to happen. It just, I think Claudia was galvanized by the connection, and she's really sort of like carrying the torch of. And have you met Claudia von Werloff in person?
Not in the flesh.
No. I hope to.
Email.
I hope to one day. But yeah, and it's like to me, it's like, would you say that without anybody ever actually saying so, at least not that you and I have heard, they're actually part of this whole thing is to actually change the chemical composition of the atmosphere to make it more what the machine intelligence wants. And I won't go into this right now, but we can talk about it. I might have mentioned this to you a long time ago when I worked with Dr. John Lilly's Dolphin Group. You know who he was, right?
Say his name again?
Dr. John Lilly, the dolphin researcher. Yeah. Well, I worked with him. I got to swim with his dolphins within the first month they were there. Played them music through the computer system and saw how it affected them, and that changed my life because I could see their eyes and how they felt the music with their whole body, and they loved it. And it was just so they live in the ocean. And they sort of, to me, they're able to sense a lot of stuff that's happening on the Earth and in the whole heliocosm because of abilities they have that we haven't evolved or that we've lost. But and it's like, but Lilly had the idea, and it wasn't really new to him, but he developed it, that what we were seeing on the Earth is a battle between water-based life in what he called the solid state entity. He described it as a form of, he used the word intelligence, but it's not a biological intelligence. It's a machine intelligence based on silicon rather than carbon. And it consists of all the computers and electronics and stuff that we've been creating. But he said that it exists on other planets and that it's been using us below our levels of awareness to create it and to wage war on life, especially the whales and dolphins, because they know about it. And they're the guardians of life and water-based life and our connection with water-based life on other planets and in other star systems, and that this computer-based thing is much more common in the universe, but it's trying to take over here. And sure, it's a science fiction sounding thing and a bit paranoid, but honestly, when you describe the kind of stuff that you're talking about and that we look around and see, it really makes a lot of sense. And we could talk about that later. But so, how about let's go back and start with Tesla, because without alternating current and a global planetary electrical grid, how much of this other stuff would even be possible?
Oh no, this is a definite Tesla era, no question about it, and that actually is why I think that Donald John Trump was chosen, well, a big reason he was chosen to run for president back in 2016 was because his uncle had been the fellow chosen by the FBI and other powers to take Tesla's apparatus and papers when Tesla died in 1943.
Really?
And go through them for the U.S. government scientific objectives. And really, to me, that was a pivotal moment. Of course, they sat on the Tesla technology for a while because, they tried it initially with George H.W. Bush and Ronnie Reagan and Dick Cheney in the 80s with the SDI program, the Strategic Defense Initiative we call the Star Wars program. And that was an attempt to lift off with the Tesla technology that they now had acquired. But the atmosphere was not quite right for it then, so it was tabled during Bill Clinton's presidency, and then it was eventually resurrected once the HARP program had been so successful up in Gakona, Alaska, in zapping the ionosphere and in being able to claim the ions for the lower atmosphere where we live. And that was a key moment when they were able to pump up and make into a battery or a condenser even the entire atmosphere of the Earth.
Yes.
And all that had to be done with these nanoparticles.
Yes.
In the fuel, the JP8, JP4 fuel, and it also had to be done from a supplementary angle of being able to unload, deliver payloads of other chemicals and nanotechnology into the atmosphere.
Yes.
So that there could be a biological component, which
yes.
would be, it'll fall to the soil, the trees, the tree bark, all the vegetation, but also we would breathe it in.
Yes. But may I just...
And that was all of one package in the HARP setup.
Yes.
Not just to control the ionosphere, and basically milk it for ions.
Yes.
In order to ionize our atmosphere for
yes.
wireless operations. But it was also what was coming down and the size of it so that it could penetrate the blood-brain barrier in human beings.
Yes. May I wanted to ask before we go too much further, what was Trump's uncle's name that was involved in that?
John Trump.
Really? And so he worked for the FBI, or he was a scientist?
No, he didn't work for the FBI. The FBI works for the government. He worked for national security, and he was chosen to to take those papers and apparatus from Tesla's apartment, because Tesla had entirely withdrawn once he saw that he was not going to be able to have things the way he wanted it with his technology, and that the American government was really not what he had expected when he came to America,
yes,
as happens to many people.
Well, Rosalie, in her book that I just actually read almost cover to cover, the new edition, which has a lot of cool new stuff, she said that...
Right, I have it here. Here it is.
Yes, exactly. They sent me 2 copies. She said that a lot of Tesla's papers and work, that I think she said that Tesla gave them to a guy named Thomas Bearden.
Thomas Bearden certainly is an expert on scalar technology, no question.
And now, what exactly is scalar? Is that a higher frequency dimension off the scale past cosmic rays? Or is it supposedly another dimension? I never have fully understood that.
Scalar technology is what HARP is.
Okay.
All these high frequency HPM type technologies what happens is you can translate it from a long wave into a standing wave. You can utilize it as a weapon system, but basically scalar technology, yeah, I'd call it a higher kind of wave, in the sense that our thoughts are scalar, and that would mean that it really has to do with dimensionality, in the sense that our thinking is not really done by our brain. It's done on another level of reality,
in a field,
and it is in a scalar way. And unfortunately, that's the problem with a lot of the ELFs, the extra low frequency waves that are used to target individuals. I'm sure you know about all the targeting going on in people's minds, and that itself really has to do with that using that scalar dimension as a weapon. And it is very unfortunate. And once Tesla realized it, and I think he realized it in the Philadelphia experiment that he was involved in with John Neumann, that it was all being weaponized, then he began to withdraw.
yes,
And of course they weren't supporting him anymore. J.P. Morgan was not supporting him, and John Jacob Astor had been killed on the Titanic. He had been supporting Tesla's research, and Tesla just sort of died into his apartment in New York until his final death, which I believe was done by the FBI.
yes. I know that when I studied physics in college, you've got scalar values, and then as opposed to vector. And a scalar is like a quantity, but a vector is the same quantity or force, but it's got a directional component. So that's what, in my mind, it keeps wanting to draw back to that. But anyway, but that doesn't really matter all that much. But so Tesla's technology, he came out with all these. I mean, I guess I'm running this by you to make sure that it's true, that he had all these ideas, even patents back around the time of Einstein, where, that was to like beam energy down across from one tower to another to, all different, and death rays that could bring down planes and destroy whole armies. And supposedly he even went to the U.S. government hoping that they would be able to create weapons so horrific that they would never be used, because he didn't believe. But wasn't he blown away by the fact that the people showed that they would use this stuff? And so, what did he die brokenhearted because he lost he actually thought he was helping humanity, but it ended up being exactly the opposite?
He had wanted to help humanity, but it was hopeless given the powers, and not just the military, but the big money
Yes.
in America. That seemed to be on a death mission. And I'm sure he was brokenhearted, but I also believe he was murdered.
Yes. Well, now, would you say, I interviewed Nick Begich 2 years ago, which was really cool, but we somehow, we never even got around to talking about HARP, because it's like it's sort of like It's like when David Icke speaks, everybody knows he's the reptile guy, but even though if he never says that. And so when you talk with Nick Begich, everybody knows he's the harp guy, even though we never talked about it. And I really wanted to, because he would be on the leading edge, but he talked about how the importance of love and going to the spiritual level and remembering who we really are, and stuff like that. And I've heard so little from him. But interestingly, he thought Trump was doing a good job. Now, how funny is that?
No, not funny to me. Absolutely true.
And so we don't have to go into that, but I mean,
no, that's a can of worms.
Exactly, because it's so there's so much double and triple think involved. But I guess I try to keep focusing on the sort of the technological juggernaut monolith that keeps rolling out as if it's got a mind of its own, regardless of what generation of people is working on it. And if you see what I'm saying, the evolution of where we are now with the whole, the Lockheed space fence and the, now tell us about, this is stuff that's affecting us now. And it's not just something new coming out of the blue. What we're seeing is it's not even the end result. It's just the next level of a lot of these processes, the transformation of the atmosphere, the spreading of all the electromagnetic, the ionospheric heaters, putting all the stuff into space, all the satellites. Like Rosalie wrote about this thing that they tried to put up. It was some kind of solar-powered satellite that was going to be, but she thought it was really just the cover for some kind of thing to beam down a giant Tesla beam from space. But then that got shit canned because it was so expensive. But then it was resurfaced as SDI, and then that got shot down. And so then now it's resurfacing. They're even talking about, I mean, who knows what's up there now? But then you've got Elon Musk's and the Starlink thing. Now tell us exactly what is 5G and why have we heard so little about that since right when it was being rolled out and Elon's Starlink was going up. That's exactly when the coronavirus thing exploded. That's not a coincidence, is it?
I need to get to talking about what the nanoparticles have to do with our biology, the mind control, all of that is all coming out of HARP, as Nick foresaw.
Yes, I'll hand the floor completely over to you, but just be sure to give us a little sort of introductory background about what some of this stuff is, in case people don't know what nanoparticles are and where did all this come from?
Well, the nanoparticles are, first of all, in nature, there are many nanoparticles. They're natural. It's just a reference to how tiny these particles can get. And a nano is 1/1000th of a meter. It's very tiny. But when the young man back in the 70s and 80s discovered that you could actually make matter by putting atom next to atom next to atom next to atom. There was no reason you couldn't. You could actually construct whole buildings out of that, whole jets, ships. It really was extraordinary, and he was laughed at, he was scorned, and he eventually really sat on it for maybe a decade, maybe more.
Who was this? Who was this?
And he was able then to, one of the problems he had with it was he realized that if you did start to actually manufacture nanotechnology, nano particles on an artificial level, on a synthetic level, out of the periodic table of metals, then eventually the nanos, if he was correct in how they worked, they would form swarms, and they could possibly even begin to eat or consume nature. And he thought that was a bad idea. But he thought that if we were responsible in using nanotechnology, it would ease our burdens, and we wouldn't have to spend all this time and money and energy thinking about building things, and things could go up really fast if you could just, set it in motion through an algorithm. and the nanos just boom, 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 start building.
Who was
So
this?
He shared that idea, and as you can well imagine, the military was extremely interested in this discovery of his, and they began to build out of nanotechnology back in the 90s. And then by 2002, that's the only place I was ever able to see that it had gone before Congress in America to be okayed, so that this could go into high production, mass production, and that's what happened. Americans were not really told about it. No one was really told about it, and anywhere in the world, really. It just began to happen. And so now we have this interesting dilemma, at least on the surface of the Earth, where everybody lives, of nanotechnology being in just about everything. It's in all processed foods, potato chips, sodas. It doesn't have to be named as being an ingredient. It's used as fillers for foods. The GMO racket, the manufacturing racket of what's called Terminator seed by Monsanto, of course it was in on it too, and they began to make Terminator seed that, as you know, was aluminum resistant, because they knew that we were being doused in aluminum coming from the sky. It's not just the aluminum in vaccinations that's the problem. It's the aluminum that we're breathing in from the nanotechnology being delivered in the skies. So the nanotech really was terrific for being a delivery system itself. But then they discovered that these nanos that you could actually put on them, despite the fact of their tininess in being atom next to atom next to atom, you could actually put tiny computers in them. And not all of them. A lot of them were just drones, were just grunts in a nano army. But in a few, you would put these nano microprocessors, and then they could communicate with them, because what they found was that the nanos have a consciousness. It's a very collective consciousness. It's a very hive mind kind of consciousness. It's what they call swarming. It's a swarming consciousness, and they all work together. And if you want to see them in action on the Earth, we're not talking yet about how they're acting inside of us now that we've breathed them in and eaten them for 3 decades. You can see in the some of the drone footage of the California fires that the first ignition of the fire actually does come from the sky, probably a satellite, maybe a drone, maybe a TR-3B, whatever it is. That's the spark. The spark happens, and then because of all the decades that we've had of geoengineering and the delivery of these nanotechnologies, then you've got, it is said that the first 6 inches of topsoil anywhere on Earth, even beyond NATO countries where this program of chemtrails actually started, the first 6 inches of soil are just loaded with nanotechnology, nanoparticles. So now the spark comes from the heavens, and there's an ignition. And now the nanoparticles all begin to act in concert with each other, because that's the core of their intelligence.
Yes.
And they start to move. If you look in those drone footages, you can see that what looks like, when I first saw it, I thought it was ashes. I thought it was charcoals of the fire moving in this amazing sort of pattern, and then I realized that it was moving very intelligently through neighborhoods of houses then they would go and they would crawl up the wall of one house and ignite that house, but then they would pass up another house, and that was one of the strange things that firemen commented on in the fires in California. And I realized, okay, so they're using nanoswarms to do the dirty work of destruction of all these fires. Now, if you think about it, that we've actually inhaled them, and that they're tiny size, not only is it almost on the quantum level because it's atomic, it's atom next to atom next to atom, so it actually, the tininess itself is not just a quantitative factor. It actually means that they don't function the same way as nature functions. They're almost in a quantum dimension that's a little outside of where we are. And that can, when they're in our bodies, the first thing, they go in the lungs. So you can imagine how our lungs are challenged. And we're talking almost 3 decades now of this. And then it goes into the bloodstream, and then some of it gets lodged in the tissues, in the muscles, in the various parts of the body, as many of the nanos climb through the bloodstream up to the blood-brain barrier, and then easily go through it. And then they lodge in the brain as well as many organs, from the hippocampus in the brain to the amygdala, all the organs that really make us have good memory, make us have good thinking, make us really conscious beings. And then because many of them have these microprocessors in them, very tiny computers, they are transceivers with what I call the laptop voice. They are being communicated with remotely by all sorts of engineers who work for the geoengineers, I assume, and we can then be controlled through that wirelessly.
Yes.
That is really has everything to do with what's going on now with the COVID-19, because I can see that this is exactly how precision medicine, they call it, is going to work. They're going to remotely be tampering with, and there are nanobots in the vaccines. They've admitted that. It's in the ingredients. Nanotechnology, they call it, but they have to be nanobots. And they can be programmed remotely to do this, that, or the other. And this is our quandary. It's not just the vaccine. Yeah, they can vaccinate us, and Elon Musk is saying that he has this neural mesh technology that has to be done surgically. Well, this doesn't have to be done surgically. This is already being done because these nanos are self-replicating, and because they are programmed by engineers, by neuroengineers, they are very much forming their own simulacra nervous system in tandem with ours. And this is how they're going to do the transhumanism. It's not going to be a matter of going to a hospital or a clinic or getting vaccinations. No, it's this.
Yes.
But they have to keep the atmosphere ionized. That's the good news, because if it's not ionized, then a lot of these there won't be the particulate matter. If they withdrew the jets that are dropping the chaff, the particulate matter from nanotech, if that were even taken out, it would be very difficult to be able to actually control, even with all the satellites up, even with all the Elon Musk satellites, the 5G satellites. It would be very difficult to control all of this down here. So it all is a unit, and that's why I need the attention, or I want the attention of the public, because I want them to understand that this is what Rosalie Bertell could not foresee all of this, but that's what she was saying, was that it's turning everything into a weaponized system, and it goes right down into our genetics and into our bodies,
yes,
and our brains.
May I just ask?
That's the key.
May I ask one question really quick without interrupting you? Where is all this nanotechnology? Where is it coming from? Who's manufacturing it?
Well,
do we know?
There's an.
Do we know?
Oh yeah, we know. It's corporations. It's many corporations
Lockheed,
are manufacturing nanotechnology. This is a very big PhD degree that you can get now. In fact, I have two PhD guys who have abandoned the scientism of the university system and are available to me to correct my incorrect things and to give me advice on this.
Yes.
No, it's called nanomaterials.
Yes.
I think you would get a PhD in nanomaterials.
Yes.
And it's everywhere, being manufactured and purchased for everything you can possibly imagine. It's in cars. It's in everything. I'm serious.
Yes.
And the fact that people haven't heard of it gives you a clue as to how essential it is.
Yes.
That this is being used.
Yes. Well, let me go. But now let's go a step ahead and go inside the mind of these engineers and the people that they work for. Maybe it could be DARPA. Maybe it could be the new generation of the Jason Group. All this different kind of stuff. I mean, and when I try to tell people about some of this stuff, they go like, not only do they go, oh, Jeff, this is just some conspiracy theory, and then but besides, who would do that? And I go like, but look, remember this thing called the atomic bomb? We know that was for real, and who would do that? We know. And so these people haven't been sitting on their hands for 70 years. So what I'm asking you now is to go a step ahead and go inside the mind, or whatever you want to call it, of the engineers, the planetary overlords. If they are in fact human, what is their bigger vision for what it is that they're transforming the Earth into? And what do they want? And tie in, remember Hitler's idea of the master race? Is this not that with kind of like a new face on it? They want to have like a caste system of the overlords, and then the people that they don't get rid of will become some kind of like slave race. I mean, could this be anything like what they're envisioning?
Well, it could be. I'm not one to conjecture too far. I kind of follow the data, and what I've come up with is, I think Catherine Austin Fitts is absolutely right that this is out of the secret space program, and it has to do with I think his name is Kartovsky's plan to make sure that we can first completely conquer and run the Earth as overlords. You could use that word, absolutely, and make it so AI machine-like that it would be relatively easy to run via electromagnetics and chemicals and the nanotechnology, which is kind of why I entitled this book with that title, even though I'm heading for the synthetic biology part, which has to do with transhumanism. I think they want, for space, I'm guessing, they want a new human being, at least some, maybe more. You could have everybody controlled through this nanotechnology. I can see that. I can see it happening now, truthfully, and because I understand the components of how you would do that. Everybody's sort of brain dead, or at least where I live. I don't live in California, by the way. I live in Washington State, and around me are just people who are
zombies,
programmed to some degree, and of course, part of that has to be through the cell phones and the televisions that people have. I have neither, and they are being pulsed with frequencies that produce a sort of brain deadness. That's going on for sure. But the aluminum chaff the conductive metals that we're breathing in on a nanoscale, plus the nanotechnology, such as the nanobots that I'm saying, with full-on computers in them. With that added to this pulsing, you've got a whole network in here that can be utilized, just like in your home now. They've got the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is nothing more than hooking up your cell phone to all of the electrical items in your home and utilizing that network for more control over your lives. It isn't about convenience, it's not about comfort, it's about controlling the human beings. So, yeah, I think they want a slave class, but they also want some people to be the new astronauts who are not just programmed, which all of our astronauts, to my knowledge, have been MK Ultra'd. They want you to be a different type of being where you could actually go into space and be adjusting your body, your oxygen intake, maybe, fixing your own organs, having small capsules by which you could vaccinate yourself with various things that would help you in new space environments. And then they want your brain to be accessible so that you can be communicating in some way with not just NASA or Cape Kennedy or something, but that you would be able to be communicating with off-planet beings.
Yes.
And entities and consciousnesses that you are encountering in your visit to space.
Yes.
So I think the secret space program is very much a part of this as a canopy. And now they are moving us through this vaccination psyop that we're undergoing. They are obviously moving us further into that, where they can begin to experiment on our bodies through shots, because they can do a great deal through what's coming down and what we're eating in GMOs, but they can actually do fine-tuning with whatever is being piggybacked in these vaccinations. They've been doing children for years, programming them through vaccinations, and now it's adults' turn. And I think this all has to do with learning for the space program, but at the same time, there are the tyrants, right? There's always the tyrants, and they want full control of this planet, the way Kartovsky said they needed.
Now, who is that?
Next, they have to control the star. They have to control our sun.
Who's
And they've
Kartovsky?
already started doing that.
Well,
and then the third is to control the galaxy. And then you have a true space age,
Yes.
In which you can go throughout your own planetary system and beyond. And so the human body now, is too vulnerable. It's imperfect. It's too sensitive. And they're starting to work very overtly on that now. It seems to me that they're not hiding it anymore.
Yes. Now, let me ask you this. First of all, tell us who this Kartovsky dude is, and then this also makes me think of, remember the Borg from Star Trek? Resistance is futile. It's very much like that.
Oh yeah.
And it's like
definitely.
it's also Avatar.
The Space Force's emblem looks like Star Trek.
Oh, and a lot of people would say all that was predictive programming.
Say it again.
A lot of people would say that all those movies were predictive programming for stuff that
they absolutely were. Oh, absolutely. Okay, so his name is, and I had the wrong name. Good thing I looked. It sounds a lot like this. The Soviet astronomer Nikolai Kardashev.
Can you spell it?
Is his name.
Spell it.
And he has 3 phases of technological achievement for any civilization aspiring to a space age. So full spectrum dominance, planetary control over our planet. Then the second one is control over our star and its systems. And then the third is control over the galaxy and its systems. And I know it sounds very big, and like you said, it sounds like science fiction. But I'm sure this is what they're working on.
You know
and
what?
That we are simply a means that they need to have for planetary exploration. It isn't enough to send AI into space. You're going to have a human interpretation to some degree, and so that's what they're looking at, I think.
Yes, it sounds like Zbigniew Brzezinski crossed with Zaphod Beeblebrox, who was president of the galaxy.
I don't know who that is, but
no, he was in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Remember that? He was the president. He had 2 heads and 3 arms. But yeah, I mean, you've got to look. I'm trying to invoke. Guess who I've been reading a lot of lately? Really understanding Michael Crichton. Remember him? The guy that wrote the Andromeda.
Yes.
Oh my God, he was a genius, man. And the Andromeda strain.
I'll bet the CIA had their thumb on him, though.
Probably. Well, but I've been reading. There's a really cool book. I can send you a link to it. It's called The Science of Michael Crichton, and it's a series of chapters written by different people. And the chapter on the Andromeda strain. I mean, I've talked about the Andromeda strain a lot ever since the COVID thing, and it's like he was a very leading edge thinker, and and I also like to tell people, like, but look, people talk about we need to go into space, and I go, but look, we're already there. Where's the Earth? It's in space. Space is big. How can we not be in space? And we're already on the most ultimate spaceship you could have. We don't have to wear a suit. We've got oxygen. We've got protection from cosmic rays, blah, 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 blah. And to me, would you say that all this stuff, I mean, I'm always drawing a contrast between how indigenous people miraculously survived on the Earth for millions of years without electricity, without any of this stuff. And then now, in the modern age, if the electricity goes off, we all think we're going to die. And it's like we're mutating ourselves. But is this not just a form of dementia that's all this? That maybe it's a region of the galaxy that the sun is passing through. It's like a cloud of dementia spores that are coming down and making us have all these hallucinations of grandeur and all this technological stuff. And eventually, maybe we might pass through it and come back out to just be biological life forms again, like we've been for so long. I mean, do you think are we doing irreparable damage? And what would Rosalie think of the COVID thing? She'd see through all that bullshit, wouldn't she? I mean,
oh yeah, of course she would. Definitely, she was an epidemiologist. I mean, gosh. Now, if I get your question right, do I think it's I think it's mind control, and I think that Paul in the New Testament, as I recall, said that what we face here is powers and principalities. And I think that's what I assume. I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner. I don't know if you know that. 45 years student.
Yes.
And I was a Waldorf teacher at one time. I really believe that we are facing powers and principalities. And those would be entities. Those would be spiritual, a wonderful term that the occultists and esotericists have called the egregore, a sort of like a corporation where you have all these different intelligences are all working for their own career or money or they believe in the product or whatever, but the consolidation of all their will forces and their attention on this one corporation, and that they're loyal and they're dedicated to the corporation. That is called an egregore. It sort of becomes a being, like the Catholic Church being.
Does it start with an E?
It's a being to contend with.
Can you spell
and I think that's part of the powers and principalities we're up against as well.
Yeah, can you spell that word?
I think that our major enemy, though, is our own selves, where we're willing to dedicate our lives to fantasies. Or we're going to sleep through life and let somebody else handle all the problems and then blame them if they didn't do it the right way. I think that this lack of will in people and the lack of intent to awaken and stay awake on their own energy, I think this is our major enemy to being able to deal with all the powers and principalities here.
Yes.
I think if you sleep through life, it just seems like the loss of a great opportunity.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I am thrilled to be here now. I mean,
yes.
Is this exciting or what?
It is.
This is a great time to be alive.
Exactly, but let me ask you this. The egregore, does that start with the letter E?
Yeah, Egregore.
Okay.
A wonderful term. Check it out.
Now let me ask you this. Is it true, or is it in your belief that no matter who or what these beings are, they can't really do anything here on the earth except through us? Is that true? They can't just go, they can't like whip something into reality. They have to do it through us, right? They can, and maybe in, they can.
I do tend to think that. Yes, I do.
But so that means
here's
that,
the reason,
that means
though,
it's
is you and I both love the earth. I love humanity. And this is why I'm working so hard. This is my third book. I just work. I love humanity. And in Rudolf Steiner land, these two, we are absolutely like this. We are connected like this. So the people who say, the earth would do better without human beings, well, sorry about that. The earth cannot do without us, and we cannot do without the earth. In that way, those beings who are perhaps wanting to destroy the planet as well, or terraform it for their own uses, they would have to go through us. They would have to.
yes,
Because we're connected like that to the earth.
Yes.
That's what I saw in Rosalie Bertell's work.
Yes.
She knows that.
Well, and
She
also,
knows we're connected to this wonderful, wonderful earth.
absolutely. And even though she was a nun, I never heard her say or write that Jesus is going to come and save us. She never put it on the higher being. She put it all squarely on our shoulders. And
Yes.
and
But I think that was her style of Christianity. I mean,
Yes.
it's because she was a nun, and I'm not exactly a fan of the Catholic Church by any
No,
means.
oh
but,
my God.
I think she had discovered a true relationship with what I call true Christianity.
Yes.
And there is true Christianity. It's just that it's inimical to the forces of this world if it's the true one.
Yes.
The churchianity, hey, I can't say a word for it. I don't support it at all.
Yes.
And I think a lot of those institutions are dying. And I think that one of the reasons we've gotten ourselves into such a mess now is that we have trusted institutions way too much. I have never trusted institutions. I am not an institution joiner, but I'm a 60s generation person. We were very aware that institutions were actually destroying our culture and our people.
yes.
So I think Rosalie, she was sharp. She was so sharp. I wish I could have met her. I
Yes.
really do.
Well, now let me say one thing. It makes me think of I was reading John Lennon's last interview in Playboy. Right came out in December, the same month he got shot, and he said, "We must remember to thank the CIA for giving us LSD." And you know they didn't like that because that woke a lot of people up. But now let me ask you this: we've got about 5 or 6 minutes left, and this is a great question to ask you, because if you've been a Steiner scholar for 45 years, I do know that Steiner wrote extensively about the consciousness of stars and planets and things like that, and I've always wanted to know more about that, and maybe you could guide me. But what would he say about did he actually speculate on the consciousnesses of who some of these larger beings might be, and tie this in with Lily's idea of the solid state entity, a field of intelligence that's based on silicon and electronics rather than water-based life, and this kind of thing, because I think it's very, very interesting, because I feel that there is some kind of reality to something like this, and it's like
Yeah, no, I agree.
Well,
I agree. There's a lot there. And regarding your silicon-based versus water-based, that's a good a way of setting up what's going on now as you can get.
isn't it?
The idea of making human beings into machines that can be ultimately controlled remotely by means of electromagnetics is very real. It's very real now.
Yes.
There is a danger.
Yes.
This could succeed for a time. Now, not forever, but for a time. And I take that very seriously, because being water-based, in my body and our beautiful ocean and our earth and our vegetation and our animals, obviously this is holy and sacred. There is no question. And certainly the Aboriginal consciousness knew this.
Yes, that's why I'm here.
Now we have these so-called human beings who, in my opinion, are allowing their own programming since childhood through all this technological gewgaw civilization that is around us now. They are allowing themselves to be hoodwinked and to not understand the oneness and the holiness of life with nature and the human being as the human being is now. And that is a serious problem. Now, for Steiner, he knew the Earth is alive, that she is a being, and he knew that all the planets have their own necessary, their own being. Some of it you can kind of get a feel for in astrology. I mean, it's an old science that's fallen on hard times, in my opinion. A lot of frou-frou kind of nonsense. But I think that to think of the recent conjunction of what was it, Jupiter and Saturn,
and then Mars too. Extremely powerful. I could feel it.
Because I have I'm not an expert by any means, but I have a feel for these planets and what their particular frequency, their vibration is as it's resonating down here on the Earth and going into my consciousness and the consciousness of everybody around me. It isn't that it's some sort of magical thinking from, the New Age. This is very ancient science, that the planets are alive, and perhaps Saturn is not. I have to admit that. Saturn may actually have passed beyond that, but I don't know that. And I don't remember what Steiner says about that. But the resonance of these frequencies down to us, we can make use of them, or we can, completely be oblivious to them. I choose to study Steiner because he is such a master of having penetrated so many things. I mean, he is, after all, an initiate, and he never tried to sell his thing to people. You still have a hard time finding stuff on him. He's not interested in numbers. It's all for the sake of human consciousness development, so that we can become what we could become. And that's why I'm opposed to the silicon model of the cyborg human being. I don't care what spaceship they're on, or saucer or whatever. It doesn't matter where they're going, because they're not human anymore. And I don't want that. I want us to go on our own trail and learn our own way. And I do not want to be a slave class. I do not want people's right to choose and the right to develop free will, or even trash it if that's what they decide to do. I do not want that to be subsumed by very mechanical people that I'm not even sure they have human souls
exactly
anymore.
You're describing, you're leading up to why I'm here in Australia, and why the ancestors here have kept me here for 20 years to go around and connect with these sacred places, the oldest continent on the earth, and the longest standing culture, with the connection with water-based life and the dream time and the whales and dolphins, and trying to understand and draw on this energy of the earth. And I'm painting the chakras of the rainbow serpent. And later on today, I'm doing an interview with one of the elders of the Larrakia people, whose land we're on here in Darwin, and it's extraordinarily powerful. But what if Rudolf Steiner could sit down and talk with Rosalie Bertell? And then on the other side would be Ray Kurzweil and Elon Musk. And my question for Ray Kurzweil is, he's always talking about living forever. And I go, but look, how do you know when you're there? What if you were almost to forever? But you know what? We should probably stop right now because we've reached the hour. But maybe we could pick up. Maybe we could pick up again on this and do a part two, because we've opened a lot of different things that I'd like to ask you in greater detail about. But I didn't want to interrupt your train of thought. You've given us a blueprint for your new book, and so would you say the best thing we can do is to stay really wet and very awake?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Stay human, and really examine your technologies around you that you think you can't do without because they're convenient and comfortable and all that. Believe me, the technology, because we are not running it, it's running us, could be a very serious downfall.
Well, so you
and I would hate to see people realize that too late.
Exactly. Well, so but you're touching on what your friend Arthur Furstenberg is doing a lot of good work, even though he might be a bit of a kook, but he means well, right?
Yes, Arthur. I know Arthur well. I used to work with Arthur when we were trying to prevent downtown Santa Fe from being Wi-Fi'd. Arthur has written that wonderful book, The Invisible Rainbow. It's really excellent, and I reference it in this next book. And otherwise, I am sorry that he goes around telling people that I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Does he?
Not to listen to me about chemtrails. I think that's really sad.
But you know what? You know what I say?
He's kind of like that.
Well, I called him on the phone, and he hung up after 30 seconds because he said, "You're talking to me from a cell phone." And I go like,
"But
dude,
he's a real genius."
I go like, but dude,
and he's a good writer, and he's a good speaker, as long as he has his way. But otherwise, he's really not very good at people.
Yes, I can tell that. Well, let's close this for now. Elana Freeland, I love you. You're such a beautiful spirit, and you've got to. This is Jeff Phillips Wefferson signing off for On the Brink Radio, and we'll talk to you next week.